It says we're live. Can I tell? Nope. I can't tell if we're live yet, but I'm sure I will be able to shortly. Now, what are we doing today? I've got Kevin Keene is going to come on here with me. And this is, hold on, I guess better wait and see if anybody's even here. Who knows? I can't even tell. I'll figure out in a second here. Okay, now. Move along here. All right. I didn't give anybody a warning. Maybe I should in a way. Hold on a second here. How can I do this? How can I do this? It's going to take a few minutes anyway, you guys. Get some people loaded up, I guess. And then I'm going to send out an invite to Kevin from the Arizona 4, and he's going to come on here. He's just having a doctor's appointment right now. Little patient, you guys. We'll get going here in a minute. A little patience. Where are we? Now this is going to be this is going to be a test in a way. I'm doing live on the podcast platform, the one that keeps chopping me off. So this is also going to be a bit of an experiment test to make sure that works okay. I don't even know, this isn't like going live on YouTube. It connects to your YouTube, so I can't see any comments, I don't believe. So I click on this. It says there's 130 people here, but I can't see comments. Now, I wonder why they do that. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me hit the invite. Now I'll type in Kevin's email, and he should be home from the doctor shortly. And we're going to sit here. We're going to have a good long BS session. So, hold on. Double check that invite email. So what happens here? Excuse me. You email them through the platform, and it sends them an invite. They click on it, and then boom, they show up. So let's hope this is going to work. Microphone. I haven't hit the mute button. Holy cow. Check out the email one more time. All good. Send invite. All right. So invite sent. So we'll just hang out here and have a bullshit session until he pops up, and I'll see him pop up. But I can't see any comments. Now I wonder, oh wait, there is a chat. Or is there not? All right, there isn't one. Yes, there is. There you are. Now I see you guys. Holy shit. Man, look at that. Look at me go. Hey, getting all caught up with the tech world. It's almost like I'm a frickin' pro. David 2A. Hey, 2A. Rick. Kelly. Ken. LC. Kit Kat. Nicole. Cats, Collectibles, and more. Laura. Hey, Laura. Uh-oh. My screen's skipping by everybody. Hello from North Dakota. Hi back. Hey, Ryan. Mystery. Another Steve. Ronnie. Ronald. Phoenix. Trippin'. You. It's only one small, only shows like 4 comments at a time on this thing. It keeps going. Anyway, we got it. So we got comments going. Got the live streams working. Okay, hold on a minute. You guys tell me you can hear me and see me all right? Somebody say, yep, everything's working, just so I know. Just so I know. The rest of the Arizona 4 watching. Oh, good. You guys can rip the shit out of them later, right? Or during. Right? A fart smeller. Who isn't? Now, somebody tell me this is working. Can you? Somebody tell me that the audio is working. Just say yeah. All right. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Steve. And Ryan, agent. All right, here we go. Now, while we wait for Kevin, I'm going to share with you guys what I did this morning. This is going to be interesting for some of you, maybe. But I cracked open my email this morning, and I'm looking for Kevin's email. We were chatting before about him coming on here, so I just typed in the name Kevin in the search bar. And it's funny, I realized a while back, you guys don't understand how many emails you don't. It's absolutely bizarre. So I typed in Kevin, and I think, I don't know, 8 or 10 pages of Kevin's came up on the inbox. I'm like, holy shit. And I started scrolling through them. And then all of a sudden, there's a flurry, a couple of never been cracked open read. So I crack them open, save them. And I'm like, this is crazy how many people have emailed me. So then I just started typing in random names. I think I typed in Bob. That's it. Bob into the search in my inbox. I don't know how many pages came up from people with the name Bob that emailed me. Boom, there's a handful more. Not opened, unread. Grab those suckers. And then I just kept on doing it. And then what else did I type in there? Got a Jersey jam seed on my tooth here. Hold on, sorry. Anyway, and then I started typing in random shit like private. Type that in. Come up pages of emails or private in the title. For you, hit anything. It was amazing. And what I noticed was back in the COVID days, there was like a shit pile of emails unread during the COVID days. I wonder why that was. I wonder if it's because maybe I was getting kabillions of emails a day. I don't know. But anyway, that's just what I was going to share with you guys about that one, right? Now, so I do have a lot of emails I saved up to blast off out here that haven't been read and were found. Now, here's an interesting one. I don't think I will reply, but I found one from the PBS broadcasting place. Where is it? I'll share it with you guys. I got some homemade strawberry jam. I got a seed stuck in my tooth. Hold on a second. PBS. Here we go. So listen to this. I had this email a while back. I'll bet you I ignored it because I took note of the PBS, but it's WPBS, the PBS affiliate in Northern New York, Canada. They emailed me a while back. Excuse me. Hi, Steve. I'm a senior producer for the WPBS, the PBS affiliate in Northern New York, Canada. I'm working on a Bigfoot story. And one of the gentlemen I spoke with in Northern New York who has had sightings told me about you. Take some time to explore your website. Explore at a glance the books you've written, watch some of your videos, and I'd love to include you in my story. And talk to you more about the day Sasquatch became real to you. If you're open to a telephone conversation to start with, I'd be most humbled. Kindly, Jolene Disrosers. Whatever. Yeah, PBS. But didn't, I don't know. I think for what I've learned here now, I mean, I've made it very clear. All my energy goes into all the people. That's it. I don't give a shit who you are, who you represent. Doesn't matter to me anymore. Especially at the stage I am right now with gathering knowledge. Holy shit. It's real tough for me to have any energy or time for any public broadcasting anything at this stage of the game for me. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to make it onto mainstream television, you've already signed away your soul that you're not going to tell the truth, no matter what comes up. Unless it's about, I don't know, frogs or lambs or sugar and spice and all things nice, you know what I mean? But when it comes to this topic, nope, I don't think so. Not me. There's going to be a shit pile of other people that would love to jump on PBS and talk about Bigfoot with her, I'm quite certain, right? But not this guy. I just can't do it. I don't even have an immediate reply to the email. I just don't. It's like, ugh, I can't help it. It's like how do you describe it? It just creeps me out. The mainstream routes to getting to all of you just creep me out. And I'm quite certain there's a whole bunch of authentic, good people behind those platforms. But at the same time, I will guarantee you they cannot tell the absolute truth when it comes to numerous topics, right? And then to top it off, they had links for their Facebook and everything. And then I just sort of, I got my gut screaming, stay away, but I'll have a little look here. So I looked at their Facebook page, started scrolling down. Didn't take too long until they're promoting drag queen story time. And my gut went, confirmed, out of here. Right? Right. Anyway, now, I'm sure Kevin's going to be here soon enough. He said he's going to be done around 10:30. We're on the same time on the clock. And it's 10:41 our time, my time now, 10:41 on the Pacific Ocean. So we'll just hang out until he comes. And I got most of my chores done. Sarah's home now, thank God. And I told her when she came home, I go, there's one thing the animals taught me this past week. I told her, I think I shared this yesterday. She goes, what? Well, all the animals persistently taught me that animals should either be in the freezer or on my plate covered in gravy, and that's it, no more. And she started laughing. She loves it. She loves waking up in the morning and having two cats jump on her lap. The one-eyed Frenchie jump on the end of the couch, and Ruby and the horses and the chickens following around like she's the crazy chicken lady. She loves it. Me, I like them, but I don't like a million pieces of Velcro stuck to me, meowing and whining and jumping on my lap non-stop, especially when I'm trying to get shit done. Anyway, she's back. I think I get my pickup back today. I'm getting a bunch of stuff done on it so that we do not die on the highway. We leave Friday morning to go up north. I got, another quick note, important one for everyone here. We ordered, I came to the conclusion my Starlink dish was broken, probably because I unplugged it off the roof here, packed it down the ladder, threw it in my truck, drove an hour, logging roads down to the dock, screwed it on top of my boat, and took it off and on how many times, and I finally busted it. Oops. So bought a new one, and holy shit, it's cheaper. She said the first one cost us $300 something bucks. No, 400 something bucks. And she said this one only costs 200 something. And normally the modem is right here in the corner of the man cave on the floor right there. And I ran this cable out the door all the way up over the barn to a clear spot on the roof over there. And that's how I've had it set up. Excuse me. And now I've got the modem is outside of this room all the way at the other end of the shop. And I got the thing sitting out on the ground, and that sucker is ripping like bam, bam, bam. It's crazy. So I guess the technology has advanced even more with the Starlink people. So that's pretty cool. So I have a funny feeling I won't be getting chopped off on here anymore, right? And also I'll be taking that one into the woods when we go into the woods. We'll be Friday morning. It's going to take us probably 2 days to get there. And then I talked her into it. I'm going to load up all of this stuff onto the quad, and I'm going to bash it deep into the bush and make a camp there. She wasn't too stoked on that. She likes being near where there might be some people going down a road. I convinced her it's going to be just as safe and just as fine there. So it'll take me probably 4 or 5 trips with the quad from where I can park, and then I'm going to make a real cool camp. And then we're going to do some live feed from there. All right? That's going to be good. Yeah. Now, Kevin's still not here, I don't think. I think it pops up and says, yeah, he's not here. So let's get into some of these emails that I missed. And I'll try not to get into a long one, because if I get into a long one, then Kevin pops up. I'm going to cut it short. Where do I even start? How long is this one? This one's not too long. Good stuff. All right. I'm going to read a quick email, all right? Hopefully Kevin's doing well. Apparently, I think he had a pacemaker put in or something. This is titled Puzzling Pieces on Why Yowie/Yeti/Yiri/Sabi Experiences See These Wild People Swaying Side to Side. All right. I'm in. Hey, Steve, in the Share My Story community. Third email in from Australia. Watching a clip on Itzhak Bentov. He mentioned swaying side to side like a pendulum helps oneself vibrate to a higher level of consciousness/awareness. I surmise that these ancient forest/wild peoples know how to transition between realms, spirit/dream time, etc. We have forgotten, yet are reminded now and then through our gut instinct. I thoroughly recommend listening/watching/reading Itzhak Bentov. That's spelled Itzhak Itzhak Bentov, Bentov. Never heard of him, I don't think I have. So many rabbit holes to look into so far. Even Manly P. Hall was aware of the Kundalini and the Caduceus, Caduceus symbolism around the time of creating the Ouija board phenomena. Those things are evil. I tried one of those suckers when I was 20 years old or 19. Got my fingers off that sucker as fast as I could, never went back. Ever. Kundalini and the Caduceus symbolize the same universal concept of a spiritual energy, coiled at the base of the spine, rising through the body's subtle energy channels to promote spiritual awakening and transformation. In Kundalini Yoga, this energy is the powerful Shakti force that ascends through the Sushumna central channel, while the Caduceus, two intertwined snakes, the Ida and the Pingala nadis, represent the same dual energy system. Through the Caduceus is also a symbol of commerce and communication. Its visual depiction of two serpents ascending a staff resonates with the ancient yogic understanding of vital energy moving through the body's channel. Itzhak Bentov, the Czechoslovakian-born Israeli-American scientist and inventor, who became an innovator in the field of biomedicine engineering in the USA, died in a plane crash on the way to meeting to purpose his findings on how to transition into the fourth dimension. Well, sadly, I think he found the quick way was through the plane crash, possibly. Suggested that consciousness is the common uniting element in all creation, and that through this link, all things are in permanent contact. Bentov believed that our minds are not just in our heads, but are connected to everything around us and even to the universe. He thought this connection is what makes us alive and aware. Intuition/sixth sense/third eye/gut instinct. Please read, quote, Stalking in the Wild Pendulum on the Mechanics of Consciousness, Itzhak Bentov, Wildwood House, 1978. Anywho, thanks for your time and dedication to all the world's knowers. Love your work. Keep it up. Much love from down under. Crispin. Yes, you can use my name. Okay, mate. Appreciate you. Somebody's going to find that quite interesting, and some people aren't. That's why we're here. Take from where you will, leave it. There's definitely some crazy ass shit going on. Our consciousness is something that's definitely been intentionally suppressed since we were kids, without a doubt. And right now, if you haven't figured it out, around the world, across the board, we have been had. I kid, it's so hard sometimes. You know, you bite your lip because there's a lot of people online who dedicate their channels to ranting and pointing out the obvious, all day, every day. And I get it. It's tough not to. I mean, I got a pretty good poker face on, but lately I'm really mega frustrated at the state of everything. It's really frustrating. It's hard to watch. It's hard to swallow when you know absolutely straight through to your soul's core that we've been had, and it's really bad. And it's really frustrating that society isn't going absolutely ape shit right now. I don't get it. I haven't a clue. But then again, If you go onto any social media platform like Instagram, anywhere, anything where you can scroll through and you see the majority, not the majority, but you see how many people are smart as a pickle. Oh my God, there's so many people, especially younger generation. They've all been brought up to be smart as a frickin' stick. Sad to watch, frustrating. Then you realize, oh, that's why the controlling 1% has not much respect for us at all. We're just seen as tools to enable them to do what they want. It's sad. It's true. I should shut my mouth because I'm rambling about it, aren't I? Right? If you know, you know. If you don't know at this stage of the game, you're not gonna. All right? Right? I don't have it in me to dedicate my all day, every day to the dark side and screaming it from the top of the lamppost. I don't have it in me because we're running out of time. But God, sometimes I probably think I should be, but there's a lot of people doing it. I don't know if it's making a difference or not. I hope so. I'm rambling. I know. Let's get another email shared. Where is he? Kevin's not here yet. All right. Ooh, this one's a longie. Real long one. All right, I'm not diving into that. Not yet. I did mark it as red, so I won't miss it. What's this one? This one's not too bad in length. Here we go. Mark this sucker as red. My cousin's encounter. Bracket. From your video called, quote, Proud Lakota Cherokee Man. All right. This was sent to me in 2021. I copied and pasted this morning, all right, when I was doing my little goopy searches. Hey, Steve, my name is David Meadow. I'm Brian Stidham's cousin and was there the day an 8-foot-tall female Sabe blew on his back. Holy shit, what a coincidence. You know what? So Brian Stidham is the kind man who shared with us Mr. Ash's diaries. And if I didn't email him a few days ago while Sarah was gone, emailed him. No reply yet. I don't even know if he's still alive. Who knows? That's the sad thing about this too, right? So many people come here and we don't even know if they're still with us. Like upright on the planet. I hope he is. And now I've got a new contact to email to find out. Right on. Moving along. Let me start again. Sorry, I'll try not to interrupt him again. Hi, Steve. My name is David Meadow. I'm Brian Stidham's cousin and was there the day an 8-foot-tall female Sabe blew on his back. It's been 46 years since that day, and yet I remember every minute. No doubt. Brian told me he emailed you and told me to check out the video. Every word was true. Though I would add, Brian didn't see the Sabe till she was walking up the bank. My father and I saw the whole thing from the water. I would add that the Sabe looked old. The face was that of an elderly native woman, but the eyes were blacker than black. Her breasts hung down to her stomach, and the wrinkled forehead looked like stacks of grayish skin stacked on top of each other. Also, when she reached the top of the bank, she knelt down and her knuckles were touching the ground as she crouched down. I was scared to death and couldn't move until my father grabbed my arm and pulled me up the riverbank. That was the only time I can remember my father ever running. My father would never go back to the woods. Another one. When I moved out to Washington, he only came to see once. When I moved out to Washington, he only came to see once. I think he meant visit. My house is on a tract of land surrounded by forest. He would stand in front of the front room picture window and stare into the timber as though he was waiting for a Sasquatch to walk out. Probably was. PTSD, right? My mother, being half Lakota and half Cherokee, who was Brian's father's sister, was more in tune with nature world than my father. My father was part Blackfoot and Scottish and really didn't believe in the native ways. My mother, on the other hand, well, I never saw an animal she couldn't speak to. She could be around any animal and seem to communicate with them. My mother was like Brian's father. They believed in the old ways and saw nature as an extension of themselves. My mother was so opposite of my father, it was a wonder I was born. She loved the woods and spent a lot of time in them. She had known about the Sabe since my uncle, Brian's father, bought the property in Michigan. In 1966, she went up to the cabin with my uncle and aunt. My father worked for General Motors and had to work. It was late June, and my mother wanted to find some berries. My aunt told her where the blueberry was located and headed that way with a bucket. She found the berry patch and was picking berries when she said she didn't feel alone. She looked around and didn't see anything at first and went back to picking berries. When she looked up again, she was looking into the face of two Sabe looking at her. At first, she was scared to death and didn't know what to do. What happened next was a source of contention between my mother and father till the day my father died. She told my father that the Sabe spoke to her without talking. She said the tall one, over 8 feet tall, told her, "We are going to the water." Then both of the Sabe, the other, she estimated was 7.5 feet tall, walked into the woods towards the river. She was knocked out of her fear after hearing the voice and told herself, "I'm going to be okay," and headed back to the cabin. She said she felt at peace after hearing the voice. When she returned to the cabin, she told my aunt what she'd seen, and my aunt wasn't surprised but felt bad for not giving her a heads up about the Sabe. My mother counted the experience as a gift from the natural world, which so many have forgotten how to embrace it as part of the natural way. My father, on the other hand, told her she must have suffered from some heat stroke and hallucinated the whole thing. Well, that all changed that day in the river. He forbid my mother and I of ever speaking of the incident. And needless to say, that didn't fly. They argued over the incident for months. That's a tough one, right? It's a tough one to swallow. Your partner's supposed to have your back. That's my rule for this home. This is the safest place for everybody under this roof in the whole world, period, at all times. That's my rule. That is the rule etched in granite for this home. That'd be tough to have that kind of, it'd be tough one to swallow living with a partner like that. I believe that day in the river was the start of the decline of my father. He became quiet and wouldn't leave the house unless it was absolutely necessary. About 2 years before he retired, he began to drink. After he retired, it was a fifth of brandy a day. I tried to get him help, but all he would tell me is, "If you can erase my memory, that's the only thing that'll help me." He told me he would see the Sabe in his dreams. It tormented him the rest of his days. He passed away in 1997, 2 years after he retired from a heart attack. That's shitty, isn't it? How many people, sorry, I said I wouldn't interrupt him. When the ambulance arrived, he was gone, but he had a look of peace on his face that I hadn't seen since I was a boy. He was no longer tormented. My mother spent the last years of her life creating a journal for me. It contains the stories that my grandparents taught her about being Lakota. My mother had a crazy sense of humor. She wrote the journal in English and in Lakota. The note in front simply says, "Figure it out." She wrote of her experience with the Sabe and other experiences she had in the woods she really couldn't explain. She passed away in her sleep on the morning of September 11th, 2001, and she never knew the horror of that day. No way, that's crazy. Wow. I live near the Spokane Reservation here in Washington. A couple of close friends are with the tribe, and I've told them about that day in Michigan. They nonchalantly looked at me with the expression of, "So?" They speak of the Sequanayeti. It's pronounced. This is what kills me when you get his name and I read it. I read it the way it's spelled, and then it says pronounced Chawaniti. Chawniti. Chawniti is how it's pronounced. But it's spelled S''CWENE'' ''Y''. Of course it's chaw. Right? It means tall and not friendly. I've seen one 9 feet tall, dark brown, and it screamed at me with the power of a jet engine slamming my body. I ran off the mountainside in my truck and got the hell out of there. My native friends told me the tall man has plenty of reasons not to like us. They have tales of the days when the Spanish and the French came through the Northwest and killed these tall men. Really? No way. It's actually well documented. I still go back to the mountain, but if I feel as though I shouldn't be there, I leave. It's hard to imagine any Frenchman being able to pull that off. Sorry, had to. They got it coming. Anyhow, that's what I can add. These tall men, Sabe, Sasquatch, etc. are here. Nothing more needs to be said about that. It only takes one incident with these people to change the way you see the world. Oh, I agree. It's from that moment on you question every statement, every article and website dealing with the tall man, and, well, every subject we're being told is, quote, the truth, end quote. My mother used to say, listen to what nature tells you. It never lies. Amen to that. Have a good day, Steve. Stay safe in the timber and bush. Love the scenery. Sincerely, David. Holy shit. Does that ever suck ass that I missed that email, right? That was July 22nd, 2021. Unread. So many. You know who I'm going to be emailing? And it sounds like we're possibly cut from the same loaf and we're on the same page for sure in this crazy ride of life. I would love to talk to David. I'd love to talk to you, David Meadow. I don't know if you're watching still or not. I hope so. Hope you're still with us. But I will be emailing you. I'd love to have a conversation with you and also find out if Brian's doing well, how he made out with the Mr. Ash's diaries. They completed yet? And if he wants to have a conversation as well, either way, or not, just to let me know if he's all right. All of us. I'm sure we'd all like to know. How interesting is that? How about that poor man? Right. So if that isn't PTSD, I don't know what is. I think at this stage of the game, probably most of us know somebody who's suffered from PTSD, right? I know a handful of people. And sadly, alcohol and substance abuse seems to go hand in hand with the PTSD until if or when you get professional help. And there is professional help for it. One of my best friends went through it. I think it was a 16-week course away from his family. And it fixed him right up. And he was definitely contemplating leaving life early. So there you go. There is help, you guys. And if anybody wants any information on that, email me. I'll share it with you, all right? I'll share that help with you. Now, where's Kevin? He's not here yet. He'll be here. He'll be here. Let's keep going. I got a whole bunch, as usual. But I mean, I have a whole bunch that I saved that were missed. I used to feel real bad about it, but I don't anymore because there's nothing. It's a one-man show here. Nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? Nothing's intentional, so there's no guilt. I just feel bad because I know that it takes courage to get up the courage just to do it. And then it takes the time to do it. And then you do it. And then nobody reads the damn thing. And you feel like you got shit out the back door. I'm guessing, but you didn't. Just saying. All right. This one looks lengthy. I'm going for it. I'm sure the rest of the Arizona 4 has been tormenting Kevin as we talk. that the platform is ready to go when he gets in. This next email is titled 3 Unusual Encounters in California. Only 3? I thought those were like by the thousands every day in Los Angeles or wherever, right? Isn't the Bay Area now kind of nasty too? Anyway. Dear Steve, thank you for welcoming me to the round table. Here are my stories. My parents separated when I was young, so I was raised in the city, but spent my vacations partially with my father up in Northern California's country, where he had a small cattle ranch. One summer in the early 1960s, we were running a small dude string for tourists to ride horses in the Northern Sierra Mountains near La Porte, California. La Porte, I probably pronounced it wrong. From the way things are spelled and pronounced now, it could be probably pronounced Chaport. My father was a real cowboy and had many skills, so we had built a small corral out of timber poles and had run a single strand of wire around a meadow across the road from our camp to hold the 10 horses at night. We had a small trailer with propane stove and refrigerator to eat in and sleep under a large whaleboat cover near it on the ground. Huh? We had a small trailer with a propane stove and refrigerator to eat in and slept under a large whaleboat covered near it on the ground. A whaleboat. This is a real adventure for a 12-year-old boy to experience some Western-style living. One night, we and the 2 hired hands were awakened by a crashing through the brush, the sound of a very fast-moving something. Dad yelled to the others, "Was it a bear?" We thought it was trying to get some food we would keep in a bag placed in a nearby stream. I don't know what it was, but it was big and sure moved fast and made no other sounds. Smart, whatever it was. Scary that nobody knew it had entered our camp until it ran off. That summer, north of there, Dad had told me about 2 cowboys farther north of us who had claimed to film a Bigfoot. Yes, they were Bob Gimlin and Patterson. Who knows if? In a story for another time, Dad had relayed to me an encounter 2 prospectors local to the area had talked about a spaceship landing in their camp one night and 3 short little men climbing down a ladder from the craft and retrieving a bucket of water from a creek and then taking off. He said the prospectors had been ridiculed so that they would fight you if you brought it up. A second encounter took place also in the Sierras. Hold up, what were they getting water for? Give somebody a drink they had abducted? Right, you never know. A second encounter took place also in the Sierras, near the Eel River, during deer hunting season in 1974. I was on a short trip with my college roommate who had served in Vietnam a couple of years earlier. The first night we camped on a cliff overlooking the river. It was a very brushy and tree-thick area, so we slept on the ground with no fire. The weather was still and warm that early October. Very peaceful and quiet until the middle of the night when we were awakened by bipedal, loud crunching sound of something/someone walking down the hill from our car, which was parked in the logging road above us. I was a city-raised guy, so I was so spooked by this unknown in the total darkness that I said to my buddy, "Grab the rifles." He had propped them up against a tree before. He replied no, and yet was also nervous enough to call out, "Hello? Who's there?" Silence. We did not hear another sound or hear it leave, and he said, "It was probably a deer." Again, I don't know, but weird feelings. Steve, you're an experienced hunter. Do deer stop when you yell at them and then not move at all right afterwards? Well, they definitely stop when you yell at them. Well, lots of times, but now then when they take off, it's much louder. Third encounter. The most weird and scary of all took place in the Big Sur Wilderness just south of Pfeiffer State Park boundary in California. This was in the mid-1980s. With a Native American friend hiking on a single-track trail inland east of Highway 1 near the Pacific Coast. We parked in a parking lot and decided to hike back 12 miles to a hot spring. This was the middle of the week during the summer, and not many people, in fact, hardly anybody was on the trail that we passed walking in there. The trail was very steep on one side going up and very steep on the downside. The vegetation on the redwood trees were very thick on both sides, so you could hardly see up or down, left or right of the trail as you walked. The 3-hour hike was in hot but peaceful, with some bird sounds but almost silent. A few nice young folks like ourselves were enjoying the spring, and my friend wanted to stay the night there. A few of the young ladies there were naked, LOL. Well, with only our day packs... Oh, Kevin's here. What do I got left here? Oh. Well, hold on a minute. All right, hold on. I'm going to put continue on this. All right, you guys? Continue. I don't know how much time Kevin's got, so I'm not going to waste it on just me reading right now. So here we go. Let's see if we get Kevin on here, and hopefully all of his techno shit works.
You there?
The whole world's here. We can just see your. You look like the guy of. You look like the guy of Tim Tooltime Taylor's neighbor when he just pokes his eyeballs over the fence.
Yeah. Well, hey, Heidi ho there.
It's working.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
now
I'm just trying to get something situated here. I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on
That's
a
all right.
second. I call this AST, Arizona Squatch Technology. So I think we are. I think that'll work.
Okay, now listen. Don't touch your phone or whatever you're using. Don't touch it.
Hands free.
Perfect. Because I think those hiccups when I've had people on here was my own screw up because I figured out it was me that lost the internet. But I just got a brand new Starlink set up and it's way more powerful. So I think it's going to be smooth, no problems.
Oh, outstanding. Yeah,
How'd
I'm
you
thinking
make
about
it?
hitting Starlink myself. So
You know what? Sarah just told me last night the first one we got, the one I've been packing back and forth from here to the boat and out in the bush and shit, I finally broke it. So, but anyways, that sucker, yeah, it cost 400 Canadian pesos, so that's probably like $50 to you. And then, but the new one we just got was $297 Canadian, and it's way more powerful.
Wow, outstanding.
Yeah, it's cheaper than our regular.
Yeah, one of our guys. Yeah, one of our guys at the Arizona 4, Wayne, he's got Starlink, and he appears to love it. Up where I live in a very, very small community in central Arizona, right on the edge of the Mogollon Rim, Strawberry, Arizona. And we're kind of in a bowl, and, cell service is horrible. I have to run off of my Wi-Fi to even make a phone call. I mean, there's prices to be paid for living out in the middle of nowhere, but at the same time, we tolerate what we tolerate to live out in the middle of nowhere. So
it's the only way to go, though, man. Could you imagine living in the city?
What's that?
Could you imagine living in the city?
Oh, I used to live, I spent 50 some years in the Phoenix metropolitan area, primarily at the base of the Superstition Mountains, in a little town called Apache Junction, home of the Lost Dutchman gold mine. But yeah, no, I did that mess almost my entire life. And, retirement is great. And I live in Mayberry, Arizona. It's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. How'd you make out today? Doctor didn't keep you?
No, it just secondary follow-up. I did one yesterday. I had to do one with my cardiologist up here, because I had pacemaker put in this past Monday, and man, what a difference in life that's made.
Really? No shit. I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to exposures in Desert Storm with sarin nerve gas. And I have what's called undiagnosed multiple sclerosis, meaning the VA won't do the final test, for the verification and diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So they just call it undiagnosed MS. Same difference. It just doesn't have that fancy diagnostic code next to it. But that all stems from, the nerve agent, basically the wiring harness, the insulation's getting worn off and things are shorting out. And that's kind of what was going on with the heart starting back, I guess, about 2018. But I have what's called sick sinus syndrome, and that's a natural pacemaker. The heart doesn't know what to do. So, the heart's beating away and it's like squirrel, and it'll skip a beat or it'll pause out and not do anything, or it just was doing all kinds of weird stuff. And I didn't realize how bad it actually was affecting me until I got this pacemaker put in, and every day is just better and better and better. It's a beautiful thing.
Good news. So when did you first become aware of these other people?
Oh, the forest people.
Yeah.
I had my very first experience with them. I want to say it was 1980, maybe 81, at 82 at the latest. But it was a Boy Scout trip up in this area. We were doing a backpack trip and got harassed all night long.
Oh,
And by the time our scout leaders finally woke up long enough to realize what was going on, and one of them discharged 44 Magnum in the air, and elephant running through the trees, and wow,
no way.
oh yeah, that was one. I think the very first write into you I ever did was telling that story. A lot more involved in the story, but it takes up a lot of time, sitting here going into all the nuances of it. But the
Sure.
bottom line was, it started off with a rock about this big being thrown, covering across a drainage, probably about 30, 40 yards, and landed just the other side of a tree that I was leaning against. And, we all jumped up, ah! But then, the scout leaders, every time we got them up, they didn't hear anything, and it's like it's just critters, and over and over and over, and so got to the point to where what had happened, what really made the scout leaders realize something was going on, was a tree got snapped, and the tree was probably about 6-inch diameter and is almost 10-foot level when it got snapped. And when something like that gets snapped in the middle of the forest in the middle of the night when it's dead quiet, it sounds like a bomb going off. And
Yeah.
but so that was my very first experience. um the fact that I ever went out in the wilderness again after that, because the terror that was involved in that,
My God.
I mean, I'm a combat veteran, and I have never in my life been as scared as I was that night,
Said
because
every combat veteran.
what's that?
Said every combat veteran.
Yeah. But it was just a very horrific experience. And, and this is what, on and on and on is what has led me, to my understanding with the interactions of the forest people that I have, that, they're peaceful. We're just misinterpreting what's going on. Big, fast, strong, and somebody's going to claim they got attacked by them. Bullshit. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Right.
I've seen how big they are. I know how fast they move. I've seen the things that they can do, lifting trees out of the ground. I just have a hard time, with the concept that, that there's bad ones out there, because if you're going to encounter something that big, that mean, that ferocious, that fast, that strong, that intelligent, you're not going to know it. It'll happen and it'll be over with.
Yeah, right. Like I think I said that, I mentioned that a while back last year or something, when I was living, well, not last year, but like the small town of Mount Currie where I was. I'm like, you know what? If one of these dudes decided to, one could probably clean out a small community in a few hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Another thing too about about the throwing those rocks. I mean, how many times we heard about rocks being thrown, and how many times we heard about people being found with their head caved in from a rock?
Yeah.
I don't know of any.
I haven't heard any.
Yeah.
And I know they're accurate. I know they're accurate in what they do. So
when you were, that was in the Boy Scouts, right? Boy Scouts?
yeah.
So
Yep.
Did you know about these people then? Did you know to call it Bigfoot or anything?
Well, I knew about Bigfoot, because of the Patty film. Everybody knows that. And the first time I saw that as a kid, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool. I'll just stay away from there. I don't want nothing to do with those things. And I never had any doubt in my mind that they were real. Here, what they call them is the Mogollon Monster. And I was under the impression, as a 12, 13-year-old boy, that it's a monster, and that's what we were being attacked by, and we were lucky to get out of there with our lives. Did I equate it to Bigfoot? No. or the forest people that I know them as now. But no, I never equated that because Bigfoot lived in the Pacific Northwest, and this is Arizona. This is something completely different, and so I had no idea what I was dealing with. And so fast forward, going all my years out hunting and long distance solo backpacking and learning tracking and all that stuff, I come across a lot of weird stuff in the mountains happening, and I just kind of equated it to the spirit of the mountains. And especially in the Superstition mountain range, there's a lot of really weird stuff that goes on up there. But I just kind of wrote it off as that, and in the back of my mind, I think, well, maybe they are. And I think for me, when it first triggered that, Bigfoot is in Arizona, came from, forgive me, I don't recall the name of the show. I think it was Not Finding Bigfoot or something like that. They did an episode in Arizona, and I was like, yes, I knew it. And, yeah, but I had no idea what to do or go about it, and so I went out into the woods and and family outings, and my son and I going banging on trees, and that whole 9 yards. And then finally something happened, and here I am today. It's a beautiful thing, especially how this is developed, especially with the Arizona 4 and the guys that are involved in this, just an incredible group of guys. I love each and every one of them with everything in me, and
That's pretty cool.
it's just, I never would have guessed I would be where I am today. Never in a million years would I have
said every one of us. Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, especially the friendship part. I mean, now, we're both very well aware when you get true friendships in this lifetime, it's not that
No, it's not. And that with the Arizona 4, and I think Chris touched on this a little bit. There's such a diversity between the four of us. Two of us are Army veterans. I'm the only combat veteran. Rob, he was a submariner, so he did submarines. He was a sonar tech or something like that. Chris, he's got to tolerate all the military talk a lot, and he does a good job with that. And and then we all rotate. We start picking on him, and it just goes around. It's a beautiful thing.
Perfect. There's nothing better than picking on each other. I live for that shit.
Hell no, and we're good at it.
Yeah, no doubt. So I can't wait to come. We'll be down there eventually. I will make my way into the woods, and then we can all sit there and chuck shit at each other.
Yeah, that'd be a great time.
Yeah. Side note. Have you ever hunted elk down there?
I've never been. I've tried to. I never get drawn for it. We have to put in for a lottery for tags. Yeah, and I've never been drawn for elk. A lot of deer hunting, a lot of javelina hunting, but primarily deer.
What are those javelina? Those javelina good?
If you know how to cook them, they're very gamey. We'll just put it that way. They have a scent gland kind of back on the top, towards the rump, and it's actually in the flesh itself. So if you know what you're doing, skinning it, it's not a big deal. But somebody who's a novice, they may nick that scent gland, and you don't want to eat it.
And that's all she wrote. They'll never go near one ever again. Yeah. You should try canning it. Throw in the can.
Yeah, but I have a herd of elk that live in my neighborhood. And they just calved out about a month ago. So got a bunch of young ones running around, and mama calling and baby calling back, and we're just about ready to start getting into the rut. So the bulls, especially the younger bulls, the spikes, they're trying to test out their vocals right now, and they don't quite have it completely down, but the big males are getting ready to to start sounding off. And
they'll be rubbing right now for sure, rubbing it all up. We leave on We're leaving Friday morning. So another quick, I know we don't want to bore you with hunt talk, but I can't help it. Isn't it the White Apache Reserve? Isn't that place near you or in Arizona?
The what?
Isn't it called the White Apache Reserve, where those monster frickin' world-class elk are?
Oh yeah, that's over in Alpine. It's Arizona, New Mexico border, right around Alpine.
Okay.
That's where the largest elk are.
Yeah, they're huge. Like they're frickin' huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good luck getting a tag.
Yeah, right. Now I can only imagine how many guys put in for those tags. Must be just mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's all the rich ranchers that get that.
Yeah, right. So you still do hunt? Do you still hunt today?
Actually, I've kind of backed off of the hunting. Yeah, I've been out. Oh, when was the last time I went? That was, well, it was prior to me getting involved in this squatching thing.
Oh yeah.
But I had an incident back in 2017 that, just got me to the point to where it's like, if the grocery stores are closed and the trains and trucks aren't running, the grocery store walks up to my house and, and then I'll take care of business and do what I have to do. But as long as I have the means to acquire without taking a life, that's what I'm going to do. And it's not a moral ground thing or anything like that. It's just a simple communication that I had with the primary individual I used to deal with that I called Andy. The first mind speak I had with him, and I didn't even know it was mind speak. I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, all over a rattlesnake. But
whoa, tell me about it.
Yeah. Okay. So in 2017, it was probably my second trip out, after all this stuff first started happening. And I went down into what I call Squatch Valley now, looking for structures. I have no idea what I'm looking for. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just parroting what I've seen on different TV shows and some of the YouTube channels that I started watching, and it was just like, well, let me go see if I can find any structures anywhere. And so I went down in there, and it's a very reverent little valley. It's all old growth, no light comes in. Excuse me, but it's very reverent down in there. I get down in there and I see what I think, this could be a structure, but it looks more like just deadfall to me. Oh, excuse me. And so fairly close to that, I find a very large pile of human poop about 3 inches off of the base of this tree. Like, Harry went and leaned against the tree and squatted and, and handled what he had to handle. That, that was my take from it. And I was like, okay, well, possible structure, largest pile of human poop I've ever seen. It wasn't a bear, wasn't elk, wasn't deer, wasn't a hippopotamus. It was the largest pile of human poop I've ever seen. And so I start, if you know anything about tracking, which I know you do, I'm spiraling out from that area looking for spoor, and I get probably about 30 to 40 yards out on this spiral, and I come across a track. I find a 16-inch track, and it's going that way. And I'm like, well, I'm going that way. And I walk probably maybe another 20 yards, and right at my feet is a black timber rattler. And just amazingly beautiful, but I love eating rattlesnake. I've been eating rattlesnake my entire life. It's trail food,
Wow.
Oh yeah. I did a lot of cross country hiking and, come across rattlesnake and off goes the head and over the backpack it went and off I kept going. And when I got to where I was going, it was dinner, been eating it my entire life. I've even spent 3 days in ICU over one finger bite right there. Yeah. One thing. Yeah, not the first one I handled, but the first one I handled incorrectly, and so there it is. But yeah, so I'm looking at this beautiful rattlesnake. its rattles, I kid you not, are from the base of my index finger all the way to the tip. And so I'm
Really?
thinking to myself, dinner.
Like
Yeah,
14,
I'm thinking dinner.
14 buttons, 14 buttons ish.
Oh, at least. But so I said, oh, dinner. Well, why do you want to eat him? Well, because I love rattlesnake. Well, what gives you the right to take his life? Well, I'm going to, because I'm going to eat him. Well, look how beautiful he is. Well, I see how beautiful he is, and look how old he is. Well, he is pretty old. And this is his home. What gives you the right to take his life? And I'm having this conversation in my head. I don't know what's going on. I just think it's, the little asshole that lives up there that's, having a moral dilemma or something with me for the first time killing a rattlesnake. And meantime, the rattlesnake had crawled off and went behind this deadfall. And so I wanted to get a little video of him, just to show my wife and kids, this beautiful black rattlesnake that I didn't eat. And so I'm leaning over the log, and I got my phone, and I finally get it to move, and and I get the video, and I hit stop. And as soon as I hit stop on the record, directly in front of me on the other side of this thicket, the most powerful vocalization I've ever heard in my entire life. It shook me to the core. Almost to the point of defecation, as Kramer said, ruka. But yeah, and every hair on my body was standing up, but it was, what do you want? And just like that, but just massive. And I just kind of stepped back, and I was like, well, hello, my friend. Ha! All right. Well, if I'm not supposed to be down here, I apologize. I'm leaving. I'm going back to camp. I don't mean to intrude. And so I'm walking back to my camp. It was about 300, 400 yards away, but I got to come up out of this, pretty good drainage. And I'm walking, and I hear him paralleling me. I can't see him, but I hear him, and it's not making any sense to me. I'm like, why can I not see this guy? It's pretty heavy footfall. And so I start talking to him, more to calm myself down. But I was like, my name's Kevin. Do you have a name? I have a mate. Do you have a mate? I have offspring. Do you have an offspring? And, and I think kind of in the back of my mind, it was more to let him know that if you kill me, there's going to be a small army up here, very well armed, and they're going to kill everything that moves. So mind your P's and Q's.
Right.
It's kind of what was going through the back of my head. But I got about 100, maybe not even 100 yards away from the camp, and he stopped. So I stopped, and I said, well, thank you. I appreciate you. You know where I'm at. Bring the family and come see me later.
Holy shit! Your average person would have been having their hair would have turned white by now.
That's more from my kids. That's more from my kids, though.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, not too many people would have it in them to casually speak back instead of just, I packed my shit up like everybody says. I threw my shit in the truck, got the hell out of there.
Well, I've been through enough tragedy and trauma and danger and yada 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 in my life that I just don't care.
Right.
I fear nothing other than my own stupidity.
Right.
And my own stupidity can get me into trouble sometimes. But no, and especially now knowing what I know about them, I have absolutely no fear of them whatsoever. Do they do things that kind of once in a while? Oh, hell yeah. But I know now beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's no harm coming to me. And I've actually been told I'm protected when I'm out there. So
wow, that's crazy. That's pretty freaking awesome.
It's insane is what it is.
So, okay. So what year was that? How long ago was that one?
That was August of 2017.
And you don't have a clue who the other Arizona 3 are yet?
Oh, heck no. No. Matter of fact, one of the guys that used to be with us, he was a field investigator for the BFRO. He was leaning more in the ape camp and he came out with me because he's one of the field investigators, and so he came out that first trip and just had a phenomenal experience. And I had to keep coming out. I'm retired. My wife is at work. I got a new hobby and all the time in the world to do it. So that's what I did. And, so I kept going out. Chuck would come out with me periodically. So if I'm out from end of July 2017 to October 30th of 2017, I put 36 days out there.
That's a good chunk.
Yeah. And so out of that 36 days, he was there 4, 5, maybe, so most of this has just been solo time. And, and so keep going out. And, of course, run into other campers and we want to talk to them. And so Rob was kind of the first one, and we went to a new area, and I got out there with my grandson, and I see this camper set up at the other end of this place I wanted to try. And I'm like, oh, great. And I was like, well, the forest is free, and what's going to happen is going to happen whether they're here or not. And then Chuck showed up, and we went over and introduced ourselves to Rob. And, Rob thought, Rob and his wife, Kathy, thought, oh, who are these freaks, and, and Chuck had said something to him, we're talking about the subtle things that the forest people will do. And Chuck had said, like maybe, on your quad over there, maybe you found a flower stuck in the seat. And Rob and Kathy are kind of like, huh? Like, how did he know about that? But they didn't say anything, and they were in the middle of packing up. They left, and I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation on the ride home, but it was enough that Rob called me up and wanted me to come over and have a sit down with him. It turned out he only lived about 10 miles away from me, and so that's how Rob came in, and Wayne was kind of the same way. So Rob and Wayne, they came out right almost at the same exact time. So they started getting their experiences. Rob's wife gets poked in the middle of the night while we're sitting there, and that's a whole funny story. But maybe Rob will have to come on and tell you that story himself.
Did she scream? Did she scream?
Stop touching me. He's not close. He's not close enough to her to touch her, and it's cold enough, and he's got his hands in his hoodie, and so we get a lot of stuff like that. And then about 2 years after Rob and Wayne came into it, I'd been in contact with Chris online through another site, and he had moved to the area, and wanted to know if he could come out with me on a trip. And I was like, oh, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody is that I can't promise you anything's going to happen, but what I can promise you is I've never been out and not had something happen. To what level it is and what it is, that it's to be seen. They do what they do, and they do it. And so we set up a time and a date to go up there, and he met me up there, and I'd already been up there, I think, for about 2 days by the time he was able to get up there. And it was kind of interesting. The moment we met, I just got the news that I was being evicted out of the house that we were renting. It wasn't a bad thing, landlord, he had 4 other houses in my neighborhood, was given a cash offer of like $2.5 million. And how do you pass that up? He's a pilot with Delta Airlines. I mean, he's a great guy. I'm still friends with him. So now I'm sitting there trying to process. Now I got to move, and now I got this new guy, coming out here, and what's it going to be? And so we get back to camp, and and he talked about that on the interview with you. But that first night was a 10 plus. Is this normal? No, I said we're getting a little more than just the normal, and so Chris has been with us ever since, and so now it's just Rob, Wayne, Chris, and myself. So
So when you were first jump into the woods. Did you ever have that mindset of like, I'm gonna be the one, I'm gonna be the first one to prove it, I'm gonna be the one?
Oh,
You know what I mean though, right? How so many people go down that road,
yeah. Okay. So how this all really kicked off, it was in a family camping trip in June of 2017. And like I said, my son and I, and even my grandkids, I got 21 grandkids, and right now the oldest one, she's 25. But we go out banging on trees, because that's what we see on all these shows. And, like I told you, I had no clue what I was doing and, just parroting what I've seen. And so I was out on a walk by myself and I found this area and I was like, oh, I got to get my son. And so my son came back out with me and, so we're tracking down through this drainage, and right coming off of the drainage was the game trail. And it's like, well, let's follow the game trail. And so he's tracking right, I'm tracking left down this game trail, so we're not disturbing anything. And we come across footprints, 18-inch tracks. And there was a right foot and a left foot, and it went over this deadfall. And I could not match the stride. My son could not match the stride. And we were just like, oh, cool. And we're taking pictures. And of course, it's half sun, half shade. You can't see diddly on the, in the pictures. But, so we're walking and I'm like, well, they're down at the bottom of this big drainage. There's a lot of sand down there. We should be able to find some tracks down there. And so we start going down this drainage, and my son's in front of me, and I hear this whack. And I kind of, looking at my son, and he's just bebopping down the hill, and not showing any signs that he heard anything. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just hearing shit. And so we get down to the bottom, and we're looking around, and there's not even a deer track down there. And it's like, well, all right, this kind of a bust. And we're just standing there talking, and all of a sudden, back up the hill where we came from, but about 50 yards farther down that game trail, Louisville slugger hitting the side of a tree. Whack! And we're like, oh, he's right there. And so, yeah, and this is a key point for part of this is it took us about 15 minutes to locate a branch on the ground that was sturdy enough that we could do a hit on a tree and not have it just disintegrate on us. So I do a knock and immediately get a knock back, and we're just like, oh my God, he's right there. My son goes, I want to do it. And so he takes a stick and he does his whack, and we get whack, whack, come back. He's like, holy cow. And so now I'm replaying stuff off of TV shows. And so I do this whistle, and other side of the drainage, farther back, I get a whistle. It's a different tone. It's longer, wasn't an echo. And we're like, there's another one over there. And so Chris and I, we decide we want eyes on this guy. So we start moving tactically up the side of this hill and get back up to where the game trail is. And we're leapfrogging, and I get to this point, and it's like, oh. And my son gets up to me. He's like, what is that? I said, I don't know, but I don't think we're not taking another step forward. I don't think we're supposed to be here. And, and could feel the pressure. I mean, it was just, it was it was overwhelming. And, we're not supposed to be there. So I just out loud say, I apologize. I just wanted to see you. I'm just curious. And if I'm interfering with you, I apologize. I'm going back to camp. And so my son and I are walking back to camp, and there's this tree that, a pine tree, probably 6-7 inch diameter and about the 5 foot level, had snapped, and, because of tree rot, and so it's just this tall stump standing up. I'm like, I'm gonna offer him a granola bar. I don't know, just so I open up a granola bar and I stuff it in there, and I walk back to camp, and I'm like, oh, I got to get my trail camera. And so I went and grabbed my trail camera and brought it back and set it up. My trail camera's like 15 feet away, and so anything takes that granola bar, whether it's a chipmunk or I don't care what it is, I'm getting photographs. And later that night, my grandkids they're playing with chem lights and they're flying all over the place. And I'm like, aha, attractant. Maybe I take one of these chem lights out there and stick it in, next to that granola bar. They'll see it and they'll come and investigate and maybe take the granola bar. Stupid. But like I said, I just had no idea, and it's all off of trial and error. But so we walk out there, no flashlights, in the bottom of a coal mine, dark, and we find where we're looking. And I go to put the chem light in there, and half of the granola bar's gone, and I'm like, oh. Whatever took it, I got pictures. I've got pictures. I'm going to be that guy.
Only
and so I go back, or my son and I go back, and we get paralleled all the way back to our camp. We can hear him walking. And a little later, my son, two of my son-in-laws, a couple of my older grandkids, they wanted to go walk back out there. And they kind of got gruffed at, and so they came back pretty quick. Next morning we were leaving, so I go retrieve the trail camera, and I pulled the SD card out, and I put it in my the laptop, and I'm scrolling through it. I had the pictures of when I set the camera up, got the pictures of when I came out with the glow stick. I got pictures of when my kids and grandkids came out there. Whatever took the half of the granola bar, nothing.
Right.
And I went, well, I've heard about stuff like this. And so that really piqued my curiosity. And so as my next trip out, I've got my GoPro, and, I'm walking around the forest, with my GoPro cupped in my hand, pointing backwards, and, just doing all kinds of stuff like that. And every time I did that, I would have absolutely no activity. I'd put it away and I would have activity, so it doesn't take rocket science to figure out that, they don't like cameras. And so it was at that point in time I put the cameras away. But about the same exact time as when I started doing audio recordings, was that around that same time frame. I think it was the August trip when I had the "What You Want." Might have been the trip after that, but I was in my tent about 5 o'clock in the morning. The lights just starting to, the sun's just starting to light up the area just a little bit, twilight. And I get woke up to a female, yeah, like that. And then off in the distance, the coyotes start, going off. And I was laying there and I was like, well, good morning. And I hear footsteps walking away. And I was like, oh my God, if this is the kind of activity I'm having, I need an audio recorder. I have got to get, because I had the "What You Want," and I had the yeah. And I was like, I got to get an audio recorder. And, so I started running audio recorder every single night, all night long. And I've got some pretty amazing, spoken language, that's the easiest way to say it. The first one I got was in 2018. It was actually my first trip out of 2018. I thought Junior had come and picked something up off of my little metal tray table that I had, and Daddy said, put it down, and then you hear the metal click. But what it is "Hick to Sush," with this metallic click sound behind it. And I was like, holy shit, and come to find out that metallic click is actually part of their language. If you think about some of those African tribes that click and pop when they talk, they do the same exact thing.
Wow. Was it similar to the Sierra Sounds language?
Completely different.
Wow. No shit.
The Sierra Sounds are so phenomenal. Matter of fact, Chris hates this. I love you, Chris, but Chris hates this. From the very beginning, from the first time I listened to the Sierra Sounds, one of the things that's in the Sierra Sounds is one of them going, what? Like that. Right. And so every time I go out, when I think they're around, I'm, what? And
you do it pretty good.
And it's just a habitual thing. And Chris is like, it gets under his skin when I do that. And I look over at him and I wink and I go, want me to do it again? But it's just, it's just one of those things, you know. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not indifferent. It's just one of those things of being out there with us. So
So now I know what to do all of a sudden randomly if I'm with you guys.
yeah,
Right. Wow, that's crazy. So, you know what? Funny thing about the trail camera things is it didn't take me long at all to figure out that our trail cameras just aren't good enough. But it's so funny how many people's brains go all in on the trail camera. If you can't get on the trail camera, it's not real.
yeah.
No, not too many people. It's funny how many people can't go, oh shit, I guess our shit just isn't good enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can't fault somebody for that. You know, I've got a very, very good friend who does this solo on his own. You know, Army combat veteran, Desert Storm. You know, just a great guy. He loves his drones. He loves his video cameras. You know, we've done one half-assed night sit together with no technology out. It was the only time him and I actually have done a sit out together, and he got to see the shimmering image go by, and you know the cloak, and you know some of the twinkle lights and that. It kind of blew his mind, but he's a and I think this is the case with a lot of people. That internal need, that internal drive for proof and evidence, and you know, I'm so far away from that,
Yeah.
um, because all the proof and evidence of their existence is already there, and you know, and you know, so you get a good video or you get a good picture, it's not going to do any good, especially you know with AI technology, what it is now. No video, no picture is ever going to stand up in a court of law, you know, as evidence or proof that they're real, because somebody somewhere will always debate it that it's a forgery. You know, so it's like, you know, if you're doing it for your own self and you know your own personal gratification, then fine, knock yourself out. But having the cameras out, you are really missing the boat at what's going on because they hate them.
Well, there's a lot of people missing the boat with a lot of freaking topics these days. But could you imagine
Yeah.
being stuck? What a sentence! Like, think about it. What a when you know what you know what we know now. Could you imagine being stuck in that freaking circle going to nowhere, of being stuck in that mindset of I gotta get proof? Oh,
Yeah. Well, you know, I was there. You know, in 2017, that was me. I wanted proof. I had to have proof. You know, my son. He's like, I'm gonna quit my job because we know where they live, and we're gonna get all this, and we're gonna make money. And like, don't quit your job. You know, but
yeah.
you know, it didn't take me long to realize that you know I was barking up the wrong tree with that.
Yeah. I think we've all been.
You know, because as you can imagine, you know, with just those first couple of experiences, you know, I'm on the internet and I'm like, who is experiencing this stuff? And I got to the point where it's like there's too much fog out there. And if I am having the experiences that I'm having, I don't care what Joe Shit the Ragman is doing or what he has to say. I am going to learn from the source. And, you know, so I consider this a field of learning, or, you know, an education, like Chris and the rest of the guys in Arizona 4. I despise the term researcher because I'm not researching anything. I'm just out living, experiencing them in their environment on their terms.
Wow. You only have a shitty
But
thing there too is most of the so-called researchers, they're all cannibalized the living shit out of each other to the point you just don't want to be associated with a lot of those guys or what they call themselves, you know?
yeah, well, you know, and that's the absolute truth, you know. Like the Nephilim story, you know, that you know, like the Scott Carpenter, and you know, and I absolutely respect Scott Carpenter's research as far as the public aspect, but he's dead wrong in my opinion. But at first, I absolutely thought that, okay, well, the Melba Ketchum thing, and if that is accurate, and the mitochondrial DNA is 100% human, and the nuclear DNA is origin unknown, then that's a strong candidate. But doing this, trying to learn from them, going to the source, and I coined a phrase. Don't let your paradigm dictate your experiences, but let your experiences dictate your paradigm. Because what I've noticed is just about everybody that goes into this goes into it with a set paradigm of, oh, I believe in evolution, so they got to be Gigantopithecus blackie descendants, and the like Chris had said, the biblical creationists, and I'm one of those. I'm very, 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 very deep spiritual, born again Christian, and and I look at the ancient prophetic texts for some guidance into what I'm doing out there. But there's more to it than just what you can find in the prophetic texts, and so I am letting the experiences speak for themselves. And, I want it to all to fit biblically. And I've kind of in my head got it pretty close, but that's just for me. I'm not going to say dogmatically, yes, it is, or no, it's not, because we just don't know. We don't have the slightest clue. But if you're going into this with a paradigm of what they are, what they're capable of, you're screwed. You are absolutely screwed from the get-go. And I was there. I mean, I was there, and I just had to let my experiences speak for themselves. And had a situation way back in the beginning. We'll just call it a Second Amendment issue, and I was possibly looking at a long time in jail, and possibly a 15-year sentence, and my PTSD was just flaring, and there was one trip I went out there with every intention to end it, and they wouldn't let me.
Oh, good.
They would not let me. That's not an evil entity.
No, I think the evil entities are the ones that try to convince you to do it. I mean, we've all been there too.
Yeah.
I've been there myself, but they didn't stop me. Well, I don't think so. No, they didn't stop me. Anyway, not about me. Hey, getting back, sorry, I don't want to interrupt or anything, but before I lose it, when you bring up Scott, do you think there's a possibility that he was dealing with something a little different? Like, okay, I guarantee he had some Sasquatch experiences, but don't you think there's a possibility or something else going on there?
Very, 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 very likely.
Yeah.
We've had this discussion amongst ourselves, the four of us, because as you can imagine, we're out 4, 5, 6 days at a time. We've got a lot of downtime. We have a lot of discussions, and we cover A to Z, up to bottom. There's nothing that we're not discussing and diving deep into. So one of the guys that's not with us anymore, I'm convinced that's what's happened to him. A lot of conversations with him at his house, and but we're all sitting around in the group, and we've got the force people there, and we're getting communications, and he's not, he's had them, but not to the degree that we have. One of his things he always used to say, I talk pretty good, but Kevin hears him pretty good. I don't hear him very well. And then all of a sudden that changed for him. I've had some very deep conversations with him, that, if you don't have the individual standing right in front of you, you don't know who you're talking to. And I take a lot of credence in that. because I've heard a lot of voices throughout my life coming from various different places. Um, you know, evil entities. Evil is real. The entities that are out there are real. What all exists out there, we don't have the slightest clue. We don't, I only know my little segment of, this big thing that's going on out there. But yeah, so with Scott Carpenter, I would be highly suspect if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, because he was getting some pretty freaky, weird shit on photograph too. You know what I mean? That just didn't add up
Yeah.
to what we've been learning about. But another quick question, as I'm just trying to, any question I've got is just helping my own puzzle pieces. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that fellow, that friend of yours that went off on his own, what was his demeanor out there? What was his motivation? Is it similar to you guys and the same as you guys? A little different?
Well, he had been with the BFRO for 7 years prior to him and I meeting, and his original, he's a smart guy. He's a great guy. I love him with everything in me. I love him like a brother. It's just interests went different directions. But when this started, it started more of a hobby for him, because he was no longer a fire chief and no longer teaching fire sciences in the community college. He's got like 36 years in the fire business. He's a smart guy. But it was more of a hobby for him. Well, I don't know if they're real. I don't know if I believe it, but there's enough stories out there. Let me go investigate. And so that's what he did. And then he got hooked up with that other 4-letter group and spent a lot of time with them. And he's been all over, investigating all over the state. I mean, he's a wealth of information. As far as the sightings and all that goes. And I think, part of it, I'll take some responsibility for it, because when he was asking me, what the mind speak is like, one of the things that I referred it to is that, it's like you hear a voice in your head, but it's not yours, and what I think ended up happening is he was so intent on getting the kind of communication that I was having that he opened the door for something else to step in, and I firmly believe that that's what happened. I mean, I've sat down with him twice now, having the brother to brother conversation that I'm not saying you're right, I'm not saying you're wrong. What I want you to do is take a step back and evaluate. You're out there, you're not getting it, you're at home, you're getting it, and these are the things that you need to look at, because I don't want you to get yourself into trouble. And he just chose, he chooses to believe what he chooses to believe, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so he's doing his thing his way, and the Arizona 4, we've gone off to do our thing our way.
Right.
And
that's true. I mean, that's what I try to preach in a way nonstop. Is everybody's on their own ride. You're on your own ride. Just take from what we need or leave it, and it can't. How can that? Why is it so hard for so many people? I don't know. I don't get it. But if you can somehow govern yourself that way, everything goes real smooth, in a good direction. Mm-hmm. But do you think so? Did you see that interview with that guy had that interview with Kerry Arnold, the guy that lost his shit?
No,
yeah,
because I backed away from a lot of that stuff, like I was saying, because I start getting a lot of fog and static, and and it gets me to start looking in directions I don't need to be looking. Right. And and so to stay on point and to stay focused on what I've got going on, I had to whitewash everything else. And so there was a period of about 4 years, other than, scrolling through and seeing your stuff and going, oh, that one looks interesting. I'll listen to this one. And of course wrote in a few times, but for the most part, I've been solo mission except for, picking up, with the Arizona 4 and, what we've got going on, all four of us now,
Yeah.
as a collective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started off solo mission for me.
Right. Yeah, because I don't obviously I mean I don't follow anybody, but I did watch that interview. Just like I say, well, along your collecting all your puzzle pieces, I got a million shelves in my head, and that one incident of that guy going down that road, I've kept that in a little shelf, looking for a pattern somewhere else. It might pop up, but I don't. It's not a thought. It's not everyday thought. What I'm saying is, I just wonder if Scott, the route that he ended up on, was probably in the same route that guy, whoever he ran into or whatever it was that he ran into. Holy shit, no thank you. Right?
Yeah.
And for you guys, what do you do? Like, I don't understand how you would, because everything is learned by experience, trial and error experience. How would you even know, or even know how to stop, prevent, or sift through something dark trying to get a hold of you in here, or the intended people you're hopefully communicating with? You know what I mean? Like, what do you guys do to keep your ass safe in that department?
Well, the first thing I do is I go into prayer before I even go out, and and I'm in prayer every night while I'm out there. But the other part of it, the experience part of this, this was one of the other things I wrote into you about, and this will probably recollect to you. In 2018, I had gone out. I was just going to do an overnight solo trip because I was going back up to check my gift stump because I left a bunch of stuff out there, and I was like, well, I'm just going to stay the night. And so I get up on site, and I didn't even unpack my truck, and I went over to the gift stump to see what was going on over there. And as soon as I got over there, I immediately got, the mind speak, leave now, not safe. Well, what do you mean leave now, not safe? I just got here. Is there a rogue bear or mountain lion or something around here? Leave now, not safe. All right. So I hop back in my truck, 126 miles back to my house.
Shit.
And that night my blood pressure went shot up to, I think it was like 209 over 1. It was ridiculously high. And the Squatch camp, that's at 7,600 foot altitude. So had that happened at 7,600 feet, what would have been the outcome? I don't know. I wasn't there, and it didn't happen up there. But I can rationalize that leave now, not safe. And I get home, and a couple hours after I'm home, my blood pressure goes. That was the first time. Second time was in April of 2020. Yeah, it would have been 2020. We're going to have our family camp out up there early that year. And so I wanted to get my squatching time in. So I went out and we were at a new spot. And I got out there. I was the first one out that in this entire area. They closed the Mogollon Rim down during the winter because of heavy snows, and typically around April 1st, the roads get opened up. I was blowing through some snow drifts, getting back to where I was. I mean, it's that remotely located, so there's nobody out there. And I went for a walk. It was I got out there on a Tuesday, and Thursday I was out for a walk. And I kind of got directed into this other area that's known by the Squatchers in Arizona. It's called Broken Mirror, and it's kind of like this room with all these dense trees around it. Too claustrophobic for me to stay in there, but I got directed to walk in there, and there's all this cut and stacked juniper firewood. And I'm like, oh, sweet, firewood. and I immediately got, "You need a fire tonight." I'm like, I'm not having a fire tonight. I'm sitting in the dark with you guys. And so I walked back to my camp and I got my truck and drove up there and I'm loading all the firewood into my truck and I get it again. "You need a fire tonight." "I don't want a fire tonight." And so long story short, this keeps happening all throughout the day, but I have the fire pit set up for a fire because my son was supposed to be in that night, possibly with the grandkids, and then it's game on, campfire, hot dogs, marshmallows, the whole camping thing. And yeah, that was the night I saw the big white one. Just before the sun went down. It was either a polar bear, because we got polar bear all over Arizona,
Right.
and
But
yeah, it was at least 10 feet, and I'm going to guess probably closer to the 12-foot mark. But what I saw was half of the body go back behind the tree, about 60 yards away from me. Yeah, I was like, "I see you," and so anyway, back to the main part of the story. So I keep getting this: "You need a fire." I'm not building a fire. I'm being pig-headed, and so it's dark, and I'm sitting there, and back off behind me to my 7, about quarter mile, half mile away, pack of coyotes start chirping. Yeah, no big deal. Then my 11 o'clock, about same distance away, another pack of coyotes, and then at my 1:30, 2 o'clock, another pack of coyotes. I'm like, all right, this is unusual. This is not normal, typical coyote behavior. And so, "You really need a fire." "I'm not lighting a fire. I trust you. I'm staying I'm being pig-headed." And so long story short, I finally am like, all right, it's time to light the fire. And I put about a quarter gallon of gas. I mean, I just dumped a bunch of gas on it and got a stick, lit it, and threw it in. And when that big ball of fire went up, it's in the middle of this big meadow. That ball of fire went up. I saw no less than 30 dogs.
what? No way. How far away?
I could have thrown rocks at them.
30. What the hell? What the hell?
So how did they know I needed to have a fire? That's the only time I've ever been told you need a fire. How did they know all those dogs were coming? I can't explain it. I don't have the slightest idea how they knew it, but I was warned about it. So now number 3, my grandson and I decide to stay over at Hilltop after a family camp out. We're going to spend 2 nights, just him and I, and the first night was really good. We had great activity, and the second night we tore the camp down. We were just going to sleep on the cots out in the open, and had everything else packed up. And just as the sun was starting to go down, I get, "Leave now, danger." I'm like, "What did you just say?" "Leave now, danger." And the second time he said it, the entire atmosphere changed. Everything went grayscale. All the color was gone. My grandson's like, "Papa, what's going on?" I said, "We got to get the hell out of here." And so I had him, shove everything in the truck while I stood guard. And it's literally the first time I've been put in combat mode, since the war. And I was ready to do extreme violence if need be. And, so we hopped in the truck, and it was about 9 miles down the road when everything went back to normal. I was like, what the fuck was that? It's, geez.
And you're still packing? So you're still packing normally?
No. That's, I'm in the process of getting my rights back, but, yeah, so I carry some pretty hefty combat knives. I'm
I got you.
Ex martial artist.
I got you. Hey, here's a thought.
I'm safe.
Yeah. Here's a thought. Okay, so the coyote thing is very, very common. It's a huge pattern. Now, there's no question about it. If it was just a regular coyote, that these people could persuade them to leave in a second. So here's a thought. The whole atmosphere is changing. The energy is changing. 30 frickin' coyotes within a rock's toss. That's absolutely not even remotely normal, as we both know. So
not even close.
No. So what if I wonder maybe these coyotes, alleged coyotes, are representing something else.
No idea.
Just as
I can speculate. Yeah, I can speculate all day long. And, between me, you, and Joe Shit the Ragman, take $1.50 and go get a cup of coffee. And that's what that means.
Yeah.
And that's what, and we as a collective with the Arizona 4, that's kind of the stance that we've taken. There's a lot of stuff we know. There's a lot of stuff we think we know, but the majority of it, we ain't got the slightest idea.
No.
And I'm not going to jump out there and say that, they're shape shifting. I'm not going to come out there and say that. I mean, if I don't have rock solid experience with it, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I like speculating. I mean, I'm the same thing. I've got some people. I got a lot of people I absolutely respect the shit out of here. They're very intelligent. I'll never attain their smarts in this lifetime. But I just take what I possibly need, and I make sure that I listen to everybody. Whatever I come up to a conclusion, that's what I'm coming up with in my own brain. I don't need to preach on anybody else, but I just like to listen to everybody, throw some shit out there, see responses, and just as I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I shouldn't say that I don't speculate on stuff because, that's human nature. So when I, if I'll come out publicly and say, this is what I think might be going on, there's a reason for that because I've had that happening. So case in point, I kind of set this up earlier. Wood knocks. They sound like Louisville sluggers hitting the side of the tree. I've heard it more times than I can count. But I don't think they're banging on the side of a tree with a stick.
Right.
Because, when I was still beating on trees, walking around with an axe handle, and I get into an area and the first thing I would do is take that axe handle and whack, and then I get a whack from over here and a whack from over there and a whack from over there. Either they're walking around carrying billy clubs or they just happen to be where all this wonderful material is on the ground. Because like I was saying in that thing earlier, when I went down into that drainage, it took us 15 minutes to find a stick to do a return knock.
Holy shit.
Something that wouldn't disintegrate, so all the work has been done for me to come up with this hypothesis, very expensive word for wild ass guess. But my speculation is they're not walking around carrying billy clubs. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And it's very easy, for, the entire community to say, yes, they're doing wood knocks and and that's what they're known as now. But, the critical thinking, that not just myself, but the rest of the team, that we have to put ourselves through while we're doing this. What is the wood knock? My opinion is they got big hands. All right. They're very strong. You're walking through the woods and you hear a whop and you need to do a whop immediately. I got to find me a stick or, I mean,
yeah.
Is that what it is? I don't know, but that makes the most sense to me. Going through the process of, everything that I and we in the Arizona 4 have done, because we don't bang on trees. That stopped for me a long time ago. But I still, once in a while, when I know they're around, will walk out there and I've had it returned once.
Okay, so I'm just having a little bit of a oh shit moment for the first time ever. I can't believe I didn't even think of this. So you probably heard a few times I shared about when I was trapping wolves and I was sinking those fencing staples into those big cedar trees and I'm sending them home my Estwing hammer. Those old Estwing shingle hammers, the hatchet hammer. I knew what it sounds like when you're sending it home the last two strikes. I didn't even think of that. So I was on top of probably 5 feet of snow where I was, and those nocks are up on the steep banks. I didn't even think of that. You can't just instantly find a stick under 5 feet of snow and hit smoking on a tree. I didn't even think of that.
And so using critical thinking and some reasonable processing of these experiences has led me to that idea that could be what's going on, and getting away from, like I told you, I'm on my solo mission. I want to learn from them. Could it be that they told me that? I don't know. I'm not going to say that under any circumstances, but that's what the processes that I've been through with this has led me to believe.
Yeah. The reality.
Am I right?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, the reality of this for me, for where I'm at right now, I don't even give a shit if they're farting that sound out at about now at the stage of the game. You know what I mean? I don't care how you're making the sound. It's kind of like
exactly.
It's like the flat Earth thing. The worst flat. I don't give a shit. It could be a triangle for all I care. It's working, moving along. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Shape of the world has no bearing on me.
No, but
I know what time it is in Baghdad.
Have you guys ever had any human beings trying to stalk you and follow you, and you know what I mean? Or any government types following you into the woods or trying to bust in on your zone there?
No. Does it happen? I have no idea. But what I suspect, with military ties that I have, now, before I go any further, I was just a mechanic. I was a light wheel vehicle mechanic. I wasn't special forces. I wasn't even infantry. I was just a mechanic. I had aspirations to be an Apache pilot. The Gulf War started and I got injured instead. So I did not serve in an infantry unit. I did not serve with special forces. That being said, I have been surrounded by them for a long time. Even had family ties with DevGru, Gold Squadron of SEAL Team 6. My wife's cousin, John T. Tummelson, was killed August 6, 2011. It's known as Extortion 17. It's when the Chinook helicopter got shot out of the sky right after bin Laden was killed.
Right.
So when I say I have ties to special forces, very loosely with that club, I was a chapter president for a very large veterans motorcycle club, the Vietnam Vet Legacy Vet Motorcycle Club. I was with them for a long time. We had a lot of guys in there. So with that being said, I understand and I know a lot of the methodologies that government forces use. Do they have kill teams that go out and kill family groups of the forest people? My humble opinion is, what I know, the forest people, it's just not a possibility. Right. My humble opinion.
Gotcha.
On top of that, talking about the helicopters and that, my oldest brother, he's retired Army Cobra pilot, retired Homeland Security Black Hawk pilot. Like I said, I was en route to become a pilot myself, and that didn't happen. So I am pretty familiar with operating procedures. Now, do these guys see the helicopters flying around in the mountains and that up in Washington and Colorado and that? Yeah, the special forces, they go out and they do real world training. So is it possible that they're out there and somebody's out doing their squatching thing and they see him flying around and, just happen to get lucky enough to see him out on one of their maneuvers? That makes more sense to me than, they're following me.
Yeah. Well,
that's
I was hunting with Rourke Denver, the SEAL Team 6 leader, last spring in Alabama. And I didn't bring it up. But one of the guys brought it up when I talk about here. I just don't bring it up. I don't bring this topic up ever anywhere. But
yeah.
And he looked at me and he started asking me a few questions. And either he's got a hell of a poker face or he didn't have a freaking clue about this topic at all. And he didn't have any input and he didn't know anybody that knew any shit about it. So not that makes a difference in my ride.
I'll put it this way. They've got a lot bigger fish to fry with what they do than to go walking around the forest looking for the forest people.
Yeah.
But it will just phase out. And, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. I'm just going to say I'm not going to bite that hook.
Gotcha.
Because my world experiences says, eh.
Yeah. Well, I think
I know that's going to break a lot of people's hearts, but
whatever. But another thing too is
right.
in this crazy ride called life. I mean, there is a lot of weird shit going on that's probably not even a bum hair related to what we're talking about. But I was listening to that Sean Ryan podcast, and I believe that guy to be a very sincere, solid dude. And a while back, I listened to a podcast. He had on a guy, military guy, whistleblower. And this guy swears in a stack of Bibles. They're in a third world country down south in the jungle somewhere. I think a hurricane was coming through, annihilated this village, I think was the baseline of the story. And they saw Caucasian, English-speaking military types with a hovering craft, not making a sound, and they're loading kids into it. And one of them, and they basically said, soldiers, turn around, we're going to kill your ass and get out of here. So I'm just saying there's a possibility there's a whole nother group of individuals going on this planet that are absolutely not even related to the special forces or any of those guys. Like something real creepy and dark. And
well, you get into those world groups, Bilderbergs and stuff like that. And I stay away from I try to stay away from any subjects with that as possible, because that's the purity of evil.
I know. It's like
like
with the occult and all that shit. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to talk about it. I got zero time for it. I just don't want to be part of it. I don't want part of me. I don't want to be anywhere near it. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, I'm a natural protector and I want to help everybody too, though. So, but I can understand what you're saying when it comes to some topics. Like, nope, I'm out.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think of the chances are? I'm sure you have some kind of an answer by now for yourself, but why is it, do you think, we can't just sit down on the same log and have a bullshit session with one of these people? Like down to, what'd you do today? What'd you eat today? What'd you have for breakfast? Oh yeah. Where'd you go last summer? You know what I mean?
They have rules that they have to follow. It's part of their hierarchy, part of their culture. This has been asked over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And, typically, and when I say I have conversations with them, they are very short, abrupt, like 3, 4, 5, 6 words at most, and they don't use filler words. But we have rules. And that's what I got for that.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I trust you. You trust me. Come on, sit down. Let's pop open a kilt lifter and let's have us a conversation. And, whoever the rule maker is, according to them, the creator, that at this point in time, no. I just don't think we're going to have that happen. Will it ever happen? Probably not.
Well,
Um,
they sure seem to be.
am I hopeful? Absolutely.
Yeah, they sure seem to be crossing that line, though.
What's that?
You know what I mean? They sure seem to be crossing that line too.
Yeah, and yeah, and it seems like, and I would have to say, since I started doing this in 2017 full time, um, that I've noticed a lot of changes, not just with the community and what's going on with this, but also with them. And you know, and I'll kind of elaborate on that. So the one that I was close with, that I called Indy, the what you want. He was also the same individual that harassed us when I was in the Boy Scouts, because that was literally where that happened with the Scouts, and where Squatch Camp is literally like 2 to 3 miles as the crow flies,
Hmm.
away from each other. But he was one of the senior elders, and he had what appeared, or what seems to be, he had a lot more leeway in what he was allowed to do, or what he was allowed to, his interactions, communications. He was a lot more liberal with what he did than any of the others. Um, he had passed several years ago, and that was a very interesting situation. But his mate is still around, and she still holds the authority that was tied to him, and it's kind of it's a complicated thing, and you know, Chris kind of covered it, and he did a very good job of it. Um, but so I told you about, my name's Kevin. Do you have a name? I have a mate. Do you have a mate? That night, I had a vision. It wasn't a dream. I can still to this day remember every single detail of this interaction. But he came up to me, and you know, and I'm like looking way up at him like this, and he says, "I am Eadengon. This is my mate Eaden Gin," and you know, and so he's motioning over to this huge juniper tree, and I still don't understand why it was a juniper tree, alligator juniper, because where I'm at, there's no alligator juniper. They're down lower elevation, but not where I'm at. And and she had this deep look of concern on her face because she's kind of leaning out, and he coaxes her to come out. He's like, "He's okay. It's okay. Come out." She steps out. She's holding an infant in her arms. I wake up, and I'm like, "What the hell was that?"
Yes.
And and it took me a little while to get his name down. You know, I was like, "Oh, what was that name?" What, you know, because it doesn't roll off our tongue very easy. And you know, so I was like, "I'm just going to call you Indy," and he was okay with that, and so that's what I called him. But his name was E. Aiden, and his title was Gone because he's a male. His mate carried his prefix name, E. Aiden, but the female version of it, Gin. So it was Eaden Gone and Eaden Gin.
Hmm.
And so what Chris was talking about, like with the White Mountain Apache tribe, and what we found in the museum in Payson, talking about the Gan, and that it goes back to the very beginning. Chuck gives me this article to read on Mount Graham, Arizona, the battle between the Vatican and the San Carlos Indian tribe, because that mountain is on their land, and you know, and it's a sacred mountain to them, and so this fight went back and forth between the Vatican and the San Carlos Indians on building that Lucifer telescope up there, and they didn't want it up there because that's where the Gan live, and the Apache Indian also have it's called the Gan dance, and you know, and they wear this garb and mask, and so the best I understand is that the Gan are a very spiritual people, and the Navajo have a very similar story, but it's a different name. But the mountains were very sacred because that's where, you know, these spiritual individuals lived. And, and it took a while for all that to mesh together to go, oh crap, that's what's going on. Cause we were at another place that we call Crazy Town, and we met one of the senior elders over there, and actually met the mate first, and that was Tarragon. And then there's Tarragon, and it's like, oh, well, what is, okay, there's correlation here. What's going on? How does this tie together? And what it was finally said, the best I can get is the GAN is, better lack of term, a bishop, a mayor, and the school board counselor all tied into one. It's like this high conglomerate of hierarchy, and they're like the judges and the attorney. I mean, it's just kind of all this big conglomerate. And so when Indy passed, a lot of my communications just kind of just fell through the floorboard. And I didn't know he had passed yet. And I was like, why am I not getting any communication? Did I do something wrong? Did I upset him? Going, playing everything back and forth. And so what had happened is I was at my house, and this is when I still lived in the Phoenix metro area. I was tending to my chickens and garden in the backyard, and I hear this raven squawking, and I turn around and look, and up on the easement of my roof is this big black raven, and he's squawking at me, and he looks off in the direction of where Crazy Town is, which was it doesn't matter, but northeast. And he squawks at me again, and then he flies off that direction. I just, yeah, whatever. A couple hours later, I'm in my garage and I hear the squawking again, and I step out front and up on the street light. That raven's sitting up there, and he's squawking at me. He looks off towards where Crazy Town is, and I go, okay, I get it. And then he flies off. And so I called the guys up and I said, hey, I got to go to Crazy Town for whatever reason it is. If you guys want to come on up, come on up. But I'm heading out and I'm leaving in an hour. And so it was myself, Chuck, Rob, and Wayne. And the first night, we had decent activity. The second night, though, holy shit, it just exploded. All of a sudden, we've got it was like 3 rows deep of these individuals encircled around us. In that shimmer, I like calling it a shimmering image, but that predator look, the cloaking. And you can see these distinct individuals all the way around, and then another ring of them and another ring of them. And the atmosphere all of a sudden got very serious. And I get this communication, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, say that again. Yeadon is dead. And I got hit. Steve, I can't begin to explain the emotions that they all dumped on my lap.
Shit.
Chris had talked about when his dad had passed, and he had that emotional dump on him. Every individual that was there put that emotion onto me. I broke down crying like a little girl.
What a halo!
I was pretty much I was pretty much useless from that point on. But how old was Indy when he died? He was 226 years old. How did he die? It was just his time, but the reverence and the emotion that everybody there got to experience. It wasn't just me having, this mental breakdown or this self hallucination or that. Everybody that was there, we all saw this, we all experienced it, we all felt it. And, it was like being at a wake. And, to say that I feel honored that I was able to experience that kind of a thing is an understatement. The other part of it that was amazing was 12 that were there. There was a couple from every place that I've been to and do what, what we do out there. There was 2 representatives from each one of those families, plus the one that I refer to him as Mr. Miyagi because of his demeanor, but it's Indy's older brother, and but it was just beyond any expectation of anything I could have ever dreamt of happening. And, and I still hold that in high reverence.
It's pretty freaking amazing, man. That's a holy shitter.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff that goes on.
Yeah. I wonder how, I wonder how far away some of those people came from.
Well, okay, so where Crazy Town is located versus where Hilltop is at, it's about a 2.5 hour drive. As crow flies, I would say 65 miles, 70 miles, probably somewhere right in there as the crow flies. But I'm not a crow and I don't fly, so I got to drive it. So it's like probably a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah, so
to get from one spot to the other.
Like Melba was telling me, I think I believe they had some of the DNA from Texas show up, identical match in northern Saskatchewan. Allegedly.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, no. Be interesting to hear.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear about it showing up in Europe. You know what I mean? Southern Texas to Europe, identical match.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be surprised to me at all either, at all. What an amazing, amazing freaking ride. There's so much to take in for everybody listening, like really listening. There's just so much to take in. It's so interesting.
Well, let me give you one of the more recent what the hell moments, with us as a group, because, there's a lot of with me, but I've also got to explain some of this stuff with the group, because there's multiple people experiencing the same thing, because when it's me by myself, it's just me by myself, and, it's just my own validity. But when it's the whole group, or part of the group. So 2 years ago, we were at Squatch Camp, and we were having decent activity, and we had walked out from the camp out to this little 2-track road, how we get into the campsite. And Chris was looking off one direction, and Wayne and I were looking off the other way. And Wayne goes, "Holy shit, did you see that?" I said, "Yeah, what did you see?" And so I told him, I said, "Well, I just watched an individual walk across the road from the right to the left." And he goes, "That's exactly what I saw." And Chris like, "What?" And so I was like, "Well, let's walk down there." And so we walked down there, and it's dark out. The only reason Wayne and I were able to see what we saw is because of the skyline. And so we walked down there, and we get to about where I thought it might have been, and it's just absolutely nothing. And Wayne's like, "Yeah, I think it's a little farther." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right, because your depth perception's a lot better than mine. I've only got one eye. My right eye's prosthetic." And so we walked down a little farther, and something grabbed my attention to the right, and I just kind of stopped, and I went like this. Like, holy shit. I said, "Guys, look at this." And right off the side of the road back into the trees, it was like the 4th of July with all these little twinkle lights and all this static. And so now we're all 3 of us standing right on the edge of the road looking into the tree line. And I got Wayne to my left and Chris is on my right. And Wayne looks down and he goes, "Hey, I got these green lights all around my feet." And look down and sure as shit, he's got these little lights around his feet. Shit. He goes, "I'm going to walk over there." And so he takes about 2 steps, and my point of view, poof, he's gone. I'm like, Wayne, are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm fine. Why?" I said, "I can't see you." He goes, "I'm right here. I hear you. I can't see you. Well, now Chris is, well, I see him. And so I kind of lean over where Chris is at, and he comes into view. And I lean back, and he's gone. And there's nothing between us. And I can see the trees in the background and the twinkle lights and all this stuff in the background behind him. But I can't see him. And so I grab Chris, I'm drag him over, and I'm like, Chris, look. And he goes, holy shit, he's not there. And then Wayne steps back in, and he's back. What do you do with that? You know, we sat for, I mean, we still talk about this one to this day, you know. Did he step into an energy field? Did he step into a portal? You know, and there's all kinds of ideas and thoughts and things that we can say what it was. We don't know what it was. There's nobody on the face of the planet that knows what it was, but it was something.
What about Wayne? What was he seeing?
He disappeared.
He couldn't see you guys?
No, he could see us. He had no effect. It was just whatever was between him and me blocked out him only. I could not see him. You know, was there an individual standing between us and the light was? I don't have the slightest idea. All I know is he was there and then he wasn't there. Chris could see him. I couldn't. What do you do with it?
Frickin'. Well, you put it on a little shelf in the back of your head and it comes up when needed again when you hear or learn something else. That's how I do it, what I do with it. But holy shit.
And that's what we do. And there's all kinds of shelves and all kinds of boxes.
Oh, believe me, I got a U-Haul following my brain around everywhere I go. But well, it's just like last summer, right out back here, Sarah and I going down the river, and I seen that trail, which did not make sense at all for a trail to be pounded down right there, going to the river with no fish in it. Anyway, it's no big deal, but I took note of it as odd. And then 10 minutes later, we're in those big ancient cedars on that corner of the river. But Sarah heard the crashing paralleling us all the way down the river. No wind, no nothing. I didn't hear shit. She's like, you don't hear that? I'm like, I don't hear nothing. And then what I'm getting to the point I'm getting to is when she looked down and seen all those branches lined up absolutely perfect on the ground. And she just went, come here, look at this. Looks down, gone. Huh?
I can't begin to tell you how many times that's happened.
Yeah, but it would be nice to have at least maybe a 3-word explanation for that. You know, just something. Give us a hint, just one little hint. Just give me a little bit of a nudge in the direction, you know, a tiny one. It's almost like, I swear to God, sometimes we're the fish in the glass bowl. We are the fish in the glass bowl for somebody, somewhere, something, you know?
Yep.
We're the fish in the bowl.
Well, what I like to tell people is that children are children and teenagers are teenagers and young adults act like young adults and old retired people are grumpy old retired people. Well, you got the same behaviors with them. You know, when you get the little pebbles tossed in at the camp, you know, think of an 8-year-old going, you know, or your tent gets shook or your camper gets rocked. Think of a teenager, you know, a couple teenage boys going, oh, let's go mess with them. You know.
Oh yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. And you know, once in a while you come across the grumpy old man, get off my lawn, you know, that's just the way I look at it with them.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've had a few things thrown at me. I've had shit thrown at me and I even know it got thrown at me that people, you can see it on the video later on, but obviously I know I'm getting messed with. It's not, obviously I still go there. I don't feel threatened at all. You know, a little creepy at times, but one big burning question that's in my brain for my ride, and I'm not obsessed with it, but if I ever had a top 2 or 3 questions that maybe somebody would graciously answer for me, one would be like, if you cross that line, if you break that rule, how are they dealt with? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's going on to keep you in line? That'd be a very interesting answer for me to hear, you know?
Yeah. I know they won't break it. They might bend it a little bit. It kind of seems sometimes. It's typically the the ones I've noticed that are more willing to kind of put a little bend to that rule would be Indy's family. You know, his mate, his offspring, his grandchildren. They're the only ones that have ever even remotely come close to kind of bending that rule a little bit. You know, it's like something will happen and then it's like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to do that. You know, and you know, punishments or anything. I have no idea.
I know, because when you look at
I have no idea.
when you look
Go
at
ahead.
go ahead. I think there's a pause, just like talking on the radio when you're on here.
Yeah. No, go ahead. It's your turn.
I was going to say there. When it comes to their discipline to not cross that line, and then you look at our discipline for the lines we're not supposed to cross. Holy shit, are we flawed? Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like there's shit, the laws, the rules that we'll break, especially some of these rule breakings that are coming to be aware mainstream of just what the elite have done to children. I mean, my God, the lines that are being crossed by human beings with absolute no hesitation at all is so creepy when you compare it to the discipline these other people have.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one of the things that that I carry with that is they kind of, in my opinion, they kind of look at us with pity. You know, like I said, Indy, you know, what I was told is he was 226 when he died. So if that be the case, and that's the truth, Indy was an adult male when the first Anglo-Saxons first came to this area where I live in Arizona. And so he watched them come in, shoot everything that moves, burns down the forest, cuts down the trees, puts roads in, throws trash everywhere, plays loud music, power, you know, and just destroying this perfect, you know, plane of existence that they were in. You know, it's they look at us with pity is the feeling that I get, that if you can't follow the creator's rules, why do we want anything to do with you? And that's, I'm not saying that that's the case. That's just the feeling that I get. You know, have been told something to the effect that we've never broken God's laws, or not God, the creator. And actually it was, yeah, it was the creator. We've never sinned against the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, so do with that what you will. But if that be the case, it's very easy for them to look at us with pity because we're assholes. We hate each other. We kill each other. We destroy everything that we're, you know, as a species in general. I mean, I've seen the worst that mankind has to offer, and we're sick, disgusting, worthless pieces of crap. In comparison to how they are. You know, that's just my outtake.
You imagine that if you say you did firsthand witness 250 years of a movie series called Humans on Earth, and imagine that show, watching that, like 100% watching that series, the Netflix series, 250 years of humans, daily activity, and you are the one that firsthand watched that shit. How would you even imagine where you'd be between your ears right now? And especially if you're more of a pure, good, kind, existing soul, you know? Ugh. Watching
I've been here 57. Yep, I've been here 57 years and a couple of days, and I don't like what I see.
I know. That's why I try to. I just, you know, it's a tough thing to kick to the curb to watch the shit show going on. I keep tabs on it. I don't let it overwhelm my life. I make sure that I concentrate on doing what we love to do and helping as many people as we can, and trying to, you know, the correct proportions of energy in each segment of life. But it's a crazy shit show to watch, man.
Well, you need you need to have situational awareness.
Yeah.
And, so you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. Because if you're walking around oblivious to what's going on in the world, when you get smacked in the back of the head, it's like you need to pay attention. So situational awareness is very vital in life for me anyway.
Well, for me, absolutely. I mean, I don't obsess to anything, but I've got all angles covered for whatever may come. I've got it covered. I'm good. But I just keep enough tabs on it to keep, okay, what's going on down the road? Okay, gotcha. And then carry on with trying to be positive and helpful and happy, But like you said, when I envision myself, okay, I'm just going to go out and maybe somebody will just sit down and have a conversation with me. And I'm thinking, my gut's screaming at me, why? Why would they even bother for a tenth of a frickin' second to even acknowledge my existence, being of where, the species that I'm a member of? Why would you even bother? It's just such a hard thing to imagine. Why would you even bother? Just like you're saying. So where do you go from here?
I don't know. It's all up to them. I just go out. I just go out there. They do what they do when they do it, and I'm just along for the ride. It's kind of like going out to see old friends, even though they don't want to come sit down and have a beer with me. But it's always very interesting. You get set in this. Well, hopefully this happens tonight, and then they throw something like Wayne disappearing at you. Just when you think they're not going to show you something new happens. And so I guess it's kind of like the addiction of what's going to happen this time. And, we leave the board wide open. We anticipate a few things happening, like the twinkle lights, usually appear when they appear, and stuff like that. But myself, over the last few years, I've got myself too caught up into the twinkle light. And okay, so let's backtrack, and okay, let's go back to the basics and go back to the beginning, and let this thing play out, and so it moves forward, and different experiences. And every experience means something, and a lot of the times we don't know what it means, but later on down the road something will happen, and it's like, oh. So I guess in a nutshell, it's just we go out there to enjoy each other's company. We have a lot of deep conversations, and I mean, we conversate about everything. Chris has been through his recovery. I've been through my recovery. So we have a close bond with that, and so we can talk addictions, and it's a very comfortable conversation for him and I, because we've both been down that road. But the conversations that we get into, I mean, pick a subject. You want to talk about pink daffodils? We've probably talked about pink daffodils. It's
yeah.
And that would probably have been more Wayne talking about the pink daffodils.
So
love you, Wayne.
Get burn in. I know,
actually, I shouldn't say that. That would have been more Rob. He's our Navy guy, so.
Oh, definitely Rob then. Definitely Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like I say, with me, when I do finally make it down there, because I said I'm going, so now I have to go no matter what. But I don't even have an ounce in me motivated to experience something. I think for me, it's like, oh, well, I don't give a shit if it happens or not. I'm just glad to be here and sit around and have a good bullshit session with some normal dudes, you know? Like I don't have that, I want something to happen. It'll happen. It happens here. It's happening in my backyard. You know what I mean? So when I do show up, if something happens, it happens, whatever. Either way, I don't give a shit. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, whatever. I'm just happy to frickin' be there, you know? So,
well, and you know, and that's the biggest part of this is, you know, the camaraderie, you know, when we're out there together. And because Rob has one of those 3-letter words, J-O-B, he doesn't get to come out with us as often as he or we would like. But you know, it's always a good time. It's a brotherhood, and it's about sharing time with each other. And the experiences that we get, that's just the icing on the cake.
yeah.
And you know, and so that's what, you know, we're not doing stuff to try and lure them into us, and you know, that's not the case at all. We sit there, we conversate, they come in, and a lot of times, depending on what we're talking about, will really pique their interest. You know, spiritual conversations, really, 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 really perks, seems to perk up the activity. Other conversations, you know, that we've had about, you know, military stuff, and, you know, explosions and firearms, and, you know, and all that guy talk. And, you know, kind of got the sense over Crazy Town that they didn't like it because the kids were around.
Right.
And, you know, watch what you're talking about. And, you know, so for me, it's hard not to talk about that kind of stuff because I like the boom, you know. But we really, if the conversation starts drifting that way, one of us will say, hey, we're not supposed to be talking like that. And so we'll drift into another conversation, and, you know, a bunch of laughs. And sometimes there's tears, and, you know, sometimes there's, you know, but, you know, we have to cover every base. We're not all for the same person. We all four have different thoughts. We all four have very similar activity. We share these experiences. And so our conversations go that way. You know, Chris doesn't believe everything I believe, and I don't believe everything Chris believes, and vice versa with all the guys. But we love each other enough to sit down, and we hear each other out, and, you know, do the scale act, you know, the balancing act with it. But we all share the same experiences out there, and that's what makes this so beautiful. So yeah, if you make it out, or I'm not gonna say if, when you make it out, and we take you out on site, and, you know, we go spend a night or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, out there just sitting around shooting the shit. That's where the meat and potatoes with all this is.
Oh yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, is, you know, sharing all this with each other, and then having all the activity on top of it. Like I said, that's just the icing on the cake. And that's what makes this whole thing work. It takes all of it.
It's a huge gift. Huge gift. Hey, I wonder how many individuals sit back and listen to my story time in the woods.
Enough.
They probably, I'll bet you.
If it's one, it's enough.
Yeah, I'll bet you somebody's out there. I'll bet you somebody out there pulls up a stump and listens.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
So, I have no doubt that you have an audience. You know, for an example, when Chris and his wife, Linda, when they got married, I'm a licensed minister. I officiated for them, and it's an open venue in Prescott, and it's actually in the forest. This little amphitheater, and it's a very beautiful spot. And right behind where everybody was sitting, there was this hill, and I was in the middle of talking to him, and I started getting the living shit zapped out of me.
Mm.
And I'm looking at Chris, and I can tell it's happening to him, and he's looking at me, and we talked about it afterwards. But I was like, "Not now, guys, not now." And he was kind of saying the same thing. But I got the impression there was 12 of them sitting on the side of the hill, but they literally zapped the shit out of me right in the middle of when I was talking, and it caused me to pause, and I almost lost track of everything that I had in my head set up that I was going to talk to them about. And so there was that little disruption. It's like, not now, guys.
There's that sense of
But
humor.
yeah,
Right?
that happened.
Crazy.
Mhm.
So, how do you think my knife got back in my backpack?
They put it back.
Yeah,
I have absolutely no doubt about that.
right.
Chris told you about the rock.
Yeah.
That was in the cup holder in my truck. And yeah, he's like, "Did you stick a rock in my sleeping bag?" What are you talking about? I didn't do it. What? He goes, "There's a rock." And I'm like, "Give me that. That's my rock." How the hell did it get in there? It was in the truck.
Well, it's funny on a note on the missing stuff where I'm going, where we're leaving, where we will be this weekend, and where I decided to make camp this time. Where I'm making camp is only about 400 meters from where my knife got put back in my backpack, and that's not my motivation to camp there. My motivation is I'm closer to this hole where these elk are. And again, I lost the bolt to my rifle 12 miles away, basically in the exact small circle where I lost that knife. And I just got this. I'm not hoping for nothing. I'm going to go with intent and try to find the bolt to my rifle. First, because I flagged it. I lost it in 2 feet of fresh snow and about 10-foot regrowth pine trees, right? So anyway, I flagged my way out with flagging tape. I always got a roll in my backpack. And I think here's my plan. When we get there, once I have one free day, I want to go there and walk my flagged route and see if I can find the bolt to my gun. And if I can't, then we'll drive 2 hours to the next town where I know that I can buy a metal detector, and then I'll find it that way. But in the meantime, I'm hoping if they are going to pull this again, they return it before I buy the metal detector.
Being it belongs to a firearm, I wouldn't hold my breath to that. They do not like firearms.
No, I don't know. It's a weird thing, when you talked about the rattlesnake incident. Why'd you take its life? But for me, where I was for 20 years, and I've been hunting and putting food in the freezer since time began, and then I was going after surplus wolves that man created those surplus wolves, and never once did they ever try to prevent me or show me a signal of disapproval in any way with my hunting or trapping that I know of. Not once, not yet.
Well, I don't think it's a thing that they disapprove of. It was, for me, the moment with that rattlesnake, it was more of just a personal choice, that, I'm trying to get, things right up here, and I'll tell you, the first deer I killed after the war, I had a problem with all the blood.
Oh, yeah.
And so the next one I got after that, it wasn't as bad. And the next one after that, it wasn't as bad. But, there's still things, highway of death will never leave my head. And, so there's parts of me that it's like, yes, I want my freezer full of meat. Yeah. The real meat, not the crap from the store.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I don't have to take a life, I don't want to. I know there's a time that's coming in the not too distant future that, I'm going to have to be self-reliant, and I don't have a problem with that. I will be self-reliant as all hell.
Right.
But being I have the means to just go purchase it, well, that's what I'm going to do for now.
Gotcha. Yeah. I get it.
And it's just a personal. It's my personal choice.
Yeah, I get it. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this coming week up there. That's for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, if anything happens. I mean, something odd happens every time. Something odd happens to me every year, a few times a year, but it's nothing for me to. It doesn't change the course of my life in any way or have any negative impact on me. But it's so freaking interesting, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. This lifetime is absolutely freaking off the charts. Off the charts.
Have you thanked him for giving your knife back?
Oh yeah, for sure. I just didn't know exactly who to thank.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I didn't know who to thank.
Yeah.
And then
Thanks, Steve. You know.
Yeah, and I've also intentionally said out loud, and I've left the liver of almost every kill I've made up there. I've left it intentionally. I said, "Here you go. This is for you."
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, but I know we're supposed to. It's all part of nature. Leaving the portion of the kill has to stay and remain anyway for the whole circle to stay connected. But anyway, we should probably shut this off and carry on. We've only been here for what, 5 hours? This has probably been the longest one yet. Almost 3 hours.
I don't know. I was about to say something because I'm down to about 18% on my phone, so I've been sitting there kind of watching it go tick 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 tick.
Okay.
Down, but
let it rip.
Anytime we're here for you. We'd absolutely love to have you out. We'll show you a good time. We'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I appreciate you guys big time. I'm sure you know that, and I'll be down there. You know, I'll be there. And probably guessing it wouldn't be till probably early spring this spring or late spring this spring coming. I'm guessing that's going to be my next window.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll be there. I'll be there for sure.
Well, just keep in mind we can't get on top of the Mogollon Rim until typically April 1st.
Yeah, that worked out perfect because usually that's around when I'm done in Alabama with my other friends, my brothers, my blood brothers. I got to go see them first, and I'll be there to see you guys. I just can't wait to sit there and insult the shit out of you guys and chuck shit at each other.
Yeah, hey, bring it. better bring a lunch.
Right. Yeah, for sure it's gonna be a good time. All right, well, let's sign out of here. You know what I do in here? Sarah bought me this little air conditioner, and I got a sheet metal wall right there. Sheet metal wall, and then it is blazing hot right here, and I'm like, and I have to shut the air conditioner off because it's too loud. So I got to get out of there before I pass out.
Right on.
Okay, man. I appreciate you big time, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right,
here.
brother.
I'll talk to you shortly.
Yep, appreciate you too.
Okay, man. Be safe. Later.
Peace out.